Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Monster Hunter Stories. So, we're taking on the Canalta Timberland at this point. Unfortunately, the very first little bit of footage that I got actually got corrupted somehow. I guess I'm going to start moving stuff over from one system to another pretty fast. But the only thing you really miss out on is when you come straight down to the first caravan stand from the boss fight at the end of the last act. You proceed on down into a clearing. There's another caravan stand and a camp that you can actually set up. And you can set up the camp after fighting a somnicanth. It's a feral somnicanth, so it has the trick of don't hit its belly unless you want the backlash attack. Otherwise, it's not really a particularly hard fight. It's weak to fire, so Wrath is good to use in it. And otherwise, once that's over with, you'll just proceed to where we are now. And this is where I'm going to start kind of cutting out some of the just general fights that I do to try to get you through the actual walkthrough in somewhat of a quick pace. As per usual, I've cut out all the cinematics, and there's a little notice whenever they're actually getting ready to kick in, so you know it's skipping ahead for that reason. But I'm also going to skip most of the just general fights in this. The one thing I would go ahead and point out is as you're going through the area, when you first get there, you at least want to do enough fights to get your team leveled up to the point where it's not that hard to fight the common creatures. Or else you're going to end up finding yourself having some challenges towards the end of the act. But as long as you're doing at least some fights and not skipping absolutely everything, then you should be good to go. Although, I will say Monster Hunter Stories is one of those games where it's actually very feasible to do a minimalist run where you keep your levels down as low as possible. Not necessarily easy, but it is feasible. I mean, after all, people were beating the Elder Dragon in the trial that was in the level 70s when we were capped at level 10. So, definitely a game where you can actually use the game mechanics to still win some of the harder fights as long as you're not opposed to leaning a little bit on luck. But all that being said, let's go ahead and jump forward to the next actual major point of movement, and I'll pick back up with you when there's some need for commentary. So there was very rapidly a need for commentary. I did forget to mention, when you're in a new area, you want to go into any and all dens that you see. You don't just restrict yourself to the rare ones. That way you can pick up the eggs and start getting the monsters identified that are in each of the little sub-regions in a new area. So just stop by any close by den, grab some eggs, and then go back out. And try to grab ones that you haven't yet identified. That way you can go out, hatch them, and have them identified from that point on. Alright, see you in a minute. On your way to the next objective marker, you'll actually come across one of the towers, so you might as well climb up, get your map updated, and then throw out a few markers if you need to help you finish figuring out the way to where you're going. We're basically working our way towards what will be the hub town of this area. Alright, so it's time for a boss fight that I actually have some footage for, and it's a feral Izuchi, which, if you've been fighting them, you'll know they're not really that hard of a creature to fight. The thing tends to attack in a way where using technical attacks most of the time are going to result in you winning. And other than that, I think it's weak to thunder, but realistically, this is just not that hard of a fight. So as long as you've actually taken the time to fight even a handful of things between when you started this act and now, you should be strong enough to take it out without really any serious difficulties. But I'll let the fight continue to play out, and you can see how it goes. Really shouldn't have any trouble on this guy.
on you.
Help me out. This will do it. Now's your chance. You've got this.
Nice one.
Impressive.
Amazing.
Let's calm down.
Let's go.
Don't push yourself. You've got this.
Counting on you.
Ah!
Yes.
Excellent! Now! Now's your chance! Now! Watch out! Now!
All right.
Impressive!
This'll do it. How about this?
You did it! Nice teamwork.
Yeah. That was rough, huh?
Alright, so after that fight, you'll actually have quite a few little cinematics play out, and then you just continue on up the path and you'll hit the new village. This one's not a terrible hub, but there's a reason why you've started seeing a whole bunch of vendors pop up at your campsite, so I don't think you really need to go drop a save just before you go in here, but be aware that it might be a minute before you can actually do a whole lot in here. Although, just overall speaking, this act is not that long. It's a longer video, but that's just because this one is both sections combined. You gotta remember the first act video that I did was the trial, taking care of about half of it, and then the other half was what was left in the first act. So this one felt like it clears up a lot faster than the first act did. Alright, so this is a very story-heavy part of the game, so give you a quick explanation. This is a good point to go through, get familiar with the general layout of the village, because you will eventually end up spending a decent little bit of time here. You're not really allowed to do a whole lot just yet, because everyone seems to be afraid of you, but that will be straightened up in the near-ish future, and even then you could just go to your base camp and make any purchases that you need other than a couple items here and there. But this is not really a play-heavy section, so I'll say you can familiarize yourself with this place, go see a couple of the cinematics and get to the point where you're actually being sent out of the village again if you want to continue the story. Otherwise, this is also a good opportunity to go out and do some exploring and get a little bit of the overworld, kind of familiar with yourself, pick up some catavan standpoints, and maybe try to take down a couple of the other feral monsters so that you can open up a couple more camps. But I'll see you in a minute. I'm going to jump on to the point where we actually leave the village. Alright, so we're being sent out to hunt down a very specific invasive monster to help with their canine problem. But on the way, we can go ahead and tackle another feral creature if you didn't go out and do this just a minute ago. But he's just right down here and around the corner, so I'll let this play out just so you can kind of see the path that we're taking. That way you aren't mistaken about where to find Arzuros either. And I'll meet back up with you in the fight. Feral Tobi Kadachi is barely any different than fighting the regular Tobi Kadachi, other than needing to wait for him to behave strangely so that you can actually hit his tail. Although, realistically, if you're just careful, you take your time, and you don't hit the tail outside of the points where he's acting strange, you're going to be fine. But if you want a few more technical details, fire is a good element to use against him. You will generally use technical attacks when he's in his normal state, and you use power attacks when he's acting strange. When he starts acting strange, you can actually hit the tail to break it. He has an AoE that you can skip if you can manage to inflict a status on him or get him to flinch, or the normal sort of things. But realistically, if you're not going through in a minimalist run, you're not going to have any trouble with him. He's not a really big threat yet. We're actually getting to the point where the bosses here in just a bit are actually going to start requiring a little bit of an effort. Not just yet, though. Tobi, pretty simple, straightforward boss. So we'll let this play out, let you see that I really don't play optimally at all and still win.
Are you okay?
Thanks.
Watch out!
Amazing. Counting on you. Come on, everyone. Yes.
Press it! Ready. Now! You got this! Calm down.
Don't push yourself. Let's go.
We'll take them down. Stay strong. Have a chance.
This'll do it. How about this?
Watch out! Help me out. All right. Ah! How's this? You did it! Nice teamwork.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm going to jump back in here to mention this is where you actually want to start with if you are having trouble finding the Invasive Arzuros, because you can come to this little camp, then follow a path relatively near it to actually go up and be able to jump to the spot where the Arzuros actually is. I always end up having to make things seem significantly harder than they really are. Like if I just look around for a second, I would realize that everything is right there in front of me. See, just hop over to this path, keep going up, and it will actually offer to let you wait till nighttime, because remember, the invasives only come at nighttime. Only story ones is it going to actually give you the option to wait out in the field. Everything else, what will happen is you'll see some critters acting kind of weird if you happen to stumble into an invasive monster's den, and they will cause one of the other characters to prompt, hey, we may want to come back here at nighttime. But yeah, go ahead and drop a save, and then start collecting paw prints. Just a friendly reminder that if you do actually know how to do the fight, you don't have to collect all the clues, you can just kind of jump down in and go ahead and initiate it. Alright, so I'm going to put a couple notes down at the bottom of the screen. At this point, you've only been forced to fight 2 invasive monsters. I actually cleaned that up somewhat, and so I have 2 other videos of me going back and doing all the invasive monsters in Azunia and all the other invasive monsters here, so that if you want to see those in a little bit more depth, you can go check out those videos. They should be linked either in the description or in the pinned comment. Now, as for Arzuros, what you actually need to do is he will pitch out a honeycomb that will attract another smaller Arzuros that's nowhere near as tough as him, and he will do that for both empty slots beside him. If both of those slots are full, he will actually unleash a really devastating attack, so it will basically one-shot all of your party. So what you need to do is either really focus down each of the other Arzuros one at a time, or switch to doing multi-hit attacks. If you're AoEing, then usually you can keep the other guys down enough and you can actually work on his Wyvern Soul gauge at the same time to kind of do a few stuns on Arzuros himself. Although the easier tactic is just to kill his companions. I didn't have any trouble at all just focusing them down. I've seen other things maybe recommend doing multi-target attacks. You can do that if you're strong enough in that area and you actually have your Mossy doing it as well. Each time you kill one, the next turn he will actually go ahead and pitch another honeycomb out, and that sort of buys you another turn. See, that attack right there is absolutely devastating, isn't it? Wipes out your team really quickly. However, as long as you're actually killing off the other guys, he throws out honeycombs, waits for another one to come in, and that delays things a little bit. And all you're doing is you'll kill them off, and eventually he will run out of honey to pitch out, and you have won. Remember, with the invasive species, you're never going to kill them outright in the field. I don't think you can even do HP damage to them. I think if you really want to, you can fight them in the den, but I'm pretty sure almost all of them are set to be something like level 70. And they're set to only really attack with that one attack, or for you to try to have to counter their standard attacks. But not a bad fight, but this is actually, if you haven't done any of the other invasives, starting to get you the idea that it's a little bit more than just, oh, you need to attack this one part. Nah, for this guy, you have to kill his minions. And I'll hop back in when we get to the next major point.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yes.
Just to give you a little bit of a heads up, for this particular one, when you actually collect the egg, it pretty much just boots you back to the main town so that you can actually continue the quest. So if you want to do some other stuff for whatever reason, then go do it now. This is by no means a lockout point, so even though it puts you back there, all it really does is open up more stuff. So you might as well do it.
All right.
And now we have some canines in the world. I would love to think that these guys would be useful to actually level up because they're not terrible to ride around on, but I don't really feel like actually trying to manipulate the genes to make one useful.
Right.
Now, before we do anything else, I'm going to go through and clear up some side quests. That being said, there's a reason why I'm letting this little bit of cinematic in the background play out. Pay attention to what these statues look like, by the way, because you are going to have to basically do the game where you follow from one statue to the next. And it's not that hard, but they're not always super obvious exactly where they're pointing, so I'm going to let this section kind of play out in full. So you may want to end up doing some time skipping if you're fine actually following them. Remember, there's timestamps below, so if you want to actually jump to the fight that this eventually leads to, just jump down there and look, because I'm going to let this whole section play out. Remember to bring the canine with you. Put it in your party. Don't just not release it. Put it in your party. Alright, so we're going to start out with Kora this time. Last time around she was actually the hardest one to do. This time around I don't think that's actually the instance. She's not that bad to finish out the quest on this one. Now granted, part of the reason why the last one was so tough is because I just wasn't paying enough attention to realize that I should avoid going into the areas with the monster with the big red sign over its head, which was my fault. Now, I go through here and actually end up slaughtering a whole bunch of stuff in real quick succession, so you're going to see a whole bunch of skips right now, but where she's leading you to a cave, I don't want to actually cut out too much so you can actually see the route to the cave. And I'll do a similar thing in the cave, try to cut out all the fights but leave the general pathing in so you can see which path to take. That being said, I'm not going to just sit here and ramble incessantly, so if you're lost and want to know what the path is, keep watching. Otherwise, there should be a link down at the bottom to jump to where the actual boss fight is. Alright, and like any good RPG side story, there's a save spot just before a boss fight. It's always a nice little signal that you're getting ready to do something that might not end well. So, what are we taking on today? Well, this is going to be a little bit of a letdown, but it's just a plain old Khezu.
Handle it together.
Let's do this.
If you've been wandering around the map, then this guy's not really going to be that big of a surprise for you. And you may have already taken him out a little bit. But, I know I'll mention this elsewhere, you need to be getting some Khezu parts together. His hunting horn is actually really useful for some stuff that we'll do later on. And all of his weapons actually have paralysis on them. So if you're looking for something with status element, he's a good status weapon. So killing a couple different Khezu here and there, good way to get ahead. He's not a really hard fight in any way, shape, or form. It gives him the boss thing, but really it seems like he takes about as much damage as in the normal way as any regular Khezu. I didn't feel like he was any harder than any other Khezu that I've fought. So don't be intimidated by this. About the worst thing he can do is actually paralyze you for a minute, but even then, he shouldn't be hitting hard enough to be a problem. So we'll jump on to the end and move on to the next side story. Or at least, I'll jump to the end. I'll let it play out so you can see the whole fight.
What? You okay?
Thank you.
No! I'll give it my all!
We've got this!
Watch out! Okay. Let's calm down. I won!
Yes!
Keep pushing! I've got this. Got him! You did it!
Nice job.
Whew, that's done.
And you get to see what the rewards are in general for this one, which is they gain the ability to use a secondary weapon, and their monstie develops a bit. In other words, they just become an all-around better companion. And that's pretty much true across the board. All the companions just pretty much straight up improve from doing the side quests in this chapter. So they're worthwhile to do, at least for the ones that you enjoy using. I tend to have the horrible habit of not actually swapping my companions to match up with the fight that I'm going into, which is a really dumb move. It would make the game significantly easier if I would intentionally pair people up. But that's a mistake I'm making that you can avoid. Now, let's jump into Ogden's second chapter. So, this one is going to involve hunting a very peculiar Seregios. What makes this Seregios so peculiar? He is extremely cunning and actually setting up a trap and hunting a very specific prey. In this case, Arzuros. So save yourself some headache, throw an Arzuros in your party, and get a couple fights in on the way to actually let it level up some. It's not absolutely necessary to use it during the fight, but it can make this a little bit easier if you actually do use one. Instead of just showing myself wandering around in circles for a while trying to figure out where to go, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to the point where I finally figure out how to get there. And then there's a cinematic that I have to skip, and then he tells me, oh yeah, no, you need an Arzuros. But there is at least one nice thing that happened about that. Once I saw that cinematic and had to actually go back and get what I needed to do this, I ended up getting good, clear footage of how to not waste your time. So I'm going to let this play a little bit. There is one camp that when you warp to that camp, you just basically turn around and you can hop right over the little ravine and get up into this area. And this is the area that you need to be in to actually trigger the boss. So here I am back at camp. And you see I've got my Arzuros loaded up. Looking around to see what monster I want to grab. Grab Aratha. And then I just turn around, go up the hill, and voila. So don't be like me and run around in circles for a while and waste your time, because I don't have any idea why it took me so long to figure out where that jump point was. But the first way that I ran around to it, if I'd left the original footage in, you would have never been able to tell it was from that camp. By the way, ground dive is something that your canines can do. So if you have one with you, you can check that out. But once you're up here with your Arzuros, just walk on up into the clearing and you'll get some pretty cool stuff happens and you get the fight. Alright, so Steve comes down to say hi. He's a mostly standard Seregios with one little quirk. While you have an Arzuros out, that's pretty much the exclusive thing that he'll fight. Now, how good is that? Just depends. If you're strong enough, he's really not that bad to actually kill it. Labels him as an exotic Seregios. But other than that, sort of full focusing on Arzuros when it's out, a lot of his attacks, if you've leveled up decently, can just kind of be ignored. I ignored the need to keep an Arzuros out and just followed him with a little bit of tactics. Like, once I figured out that he does speed in his normal mode, trying to counter the speed attacks, and just sort of trying to remember what sorts of things he's doing so that you can actually negate as many of his attacks as possible. But, I don't know, I'm not the type to really enjoy healing enough to want to actually keep Arzuros out. But he does do some pretty significant damage that first time around. I didn't really have too many issues actually keeping my health up for the rest of the fight and staying strong enough to not have him one-shot me. So you just got to do a little bit of healing here and there, and he's not that bad. You can use basically anything you want to, because if you kill him quickly, you don't have to defend against a whole lot of those attacks. Or, if you have a strong enough Arzuros, you can just leave the Arzuros out, let him focus it, and just keep it alive, and you'll be good to go. So, whichever strategy you want to do will work for you. This is not one of those things where you absolutely have to do one particular strategy or the other. So, let the rest of the fight pan out, and meet you at the end. So now it's time to go help out Thea. And just like last time, ultimately we're going to end out in a pig race. I'll just be blunt with you, you really don't need me to walk you through every single step of this. You just might need to see more or less where you need to go to hit the key spots to have this going on. So I'll give this quick introduction, then I'm going to jump on to the next side story. More or less, as long as you actually follow the quest markers, talk to each of the people that you're supposed to talk to, you will ultimately end out in a race with another pig. That pig race is just like the last one. You really need to hit as many of the speed boosts as possible, although one little pointer I will give you is I have noticed it seems like if you miss a bunch of them, they seem to have put pretty excessive rubber banding in on this. And what I mean by that is sometimes in racing games, developers will actually basically tether the NPCs to your character to keep you from both extremely overwhelming them and getting so far behind you cannot catch up. So what tends to happen is if you're getting behind, it will only really let him get so far ahead of you unless you just completely stop so that you actually have some hope of catching up. But at the same time, you can't really get that far ahead of the pig to the point where you really need to be hitting the last couple boosts whenever you're actually doing the race. So it may take you a lap or two to actually get used to where the boosts are, but if you get off on the first lap, don't worry about it. Keep going. You'll probably be able to catch up by the point where you really need to, which is like the last 2 speed boosts you need to hit in order to actually pass him. But if you get really far behind on the second lap, you might as well pause it and go ahead and hit the restart button. But it's not really that hard. It's just a matter of hitting all the speed boosts. And I still have yet to actually see one of the slow ones. I don't know if I'm just missing them or if I'm picking them up and not realizing it or what. But not that bad. You get the same sort of reward you do out of all the other ones. So hop in, do it, and have fun.
And be sure to watch out for the...
Now.
Yeah, no, I accidentally clipped out Ogden's, but as is normal at this point, Thea gets the option to use a second weapon, and Kadachi gets developed a little bit further, so better companions than they were before. Now, let's go tackle Eleanor's side story and get really close to being finished with the side stories. For her, yet again, we're going to be going out on basically a scavenger hunt where we've got to mark some stuff on the map, or at least try to. For some reason, my markers weren't really working on this one, so I just kind of had to remind myself of where things were at, which will involve killing a couple things and otherwise just picking some stuff up. So we'll jump to each of those spots and then meet back together. First item is easy enough. You can just fly straight from the tower, go across the ravine, and there you have it. Next items that we still need are an Arzuros. We need to blast one with a fire blast so that we can stun it and get the item off of it. And we need to kill us a Yian Garuga because she wants its stomach. So if you can find the Feral Bishotten, then if you head on up the hill from him, there will be an Arzuros that you can actually fireball. And when it falls over, you will pick up the royal jelly from it, I believe it is. Yep, royal jelly obtained. And Yian Garuga is not terribly far away from here. They tend to be over in the mountain over to our right at this point. And you can actually see the nice big yellow marker there. But it's just going to be a standard Yian Garuga. It's a little bit of a trek, so I'm going to leave the walk in, but you can jump ahead about a minute or two and see how to get there. There's actually another tower that you can see the tower sticking up pretty well. If you work your way to that tower from the top of it, you can actually see the Yian Garuga really, really well. So you can just hop off the tower in the direction of it, and then it's just a stone's throw away from there. So let's jump ahead to the fight. Like the other side stories at this point, this is really just a standard fight. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even give it any sort of special indicators. Garuga can be a little bit tough, which is even true in the games. So he tends to do technical attacks, and the counter to technical is power. So starting out with Ratha out and using power attacks yourself will put you in a pretty good position. Yet again, if you've been fighting your way around the map and just doing the normal things you should do in most RPGs, you'll probably be strong enough to take him on without a real legitimate problem. Garugas are not the creatures up here that are actually the hard part. So, once you beat him, you'll get the stomach, and as per usual with this particular side quest, you can go on back to camp.
Amazing. Nice one. Are you okay? Come on, everyone.
Calm down.
Amazing.
Now's your chance.
Keep pushing. We've got this.
All right. Nice teamwork.
Yeah.
Now, unlike the others, this also does give you access to a cooking note, so it lets you obtain a few more recipes if you want it. But she gets her new weapon, and her Monstie gets upgraded, so everything is stronger now. Now it's time to take on our final side story before we finish up this particular segment of the game, and that is Gaul. As per usual, his stuff involves helping someone out that seems to have somehow gotten themselves in trouble, so you'll be doing quite a bit of traveling. I'll jump to one of the key parts here in just a moment and be sure you understand exactly where you need to go, because you do have to hit the locations in order to actually move his particular campaign along. And by the way, this is just a spot you can hop into for a side quest, so you can basically listen on people's prayers and bring items to them. More or less, you're going to work your way back up to the place where we fought the Garuga, and then continue upward. Your whole goal here is basically to get to the top of the mountain, and once you get up there, like that little spot up there in between those two peaks, so you'll need to switch to a flyer at this point to get to that spot. But once you get up there, the next cinematic part of this will trigger. Now, almost purely by accident, I pick up this Poogie. So, go ahead and get a warning that there is a Poogie there. And then you'll just kind of go over to the edge and look down where he was showing you, and there is a hole to jump down into a little teeny tiny cave right down here. And that part actually makes my stomach lift up regardless of whether or not this is a video game. So, we're back to traveling through caves. All sorts of fun, and you'll see the little tracks that you have to pick up along the way that are lost person tracks. That's the reason why you can't just come straight down to this part from the beginning, because you got to get that one track up on top of the hill. I think. I don't know. I didn't really test it to see if you could just jump to the location where I ultimately know that the guy is. But we'll see. I also tend to just avoid fighting the Khezus, although realistically you probably need to kill a couple, because, yet again, having that hunting horn is going to be super useful whenever it comes time to start trying to kill some of the invasive species. I'll just explain while this fight plays out. Invasive Shogun Centaur, which I have a guide up on, requires that you buff yourself up to a certain level of defense. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned this earlier, but the hunting horn for Khezu actually has two different ones. It has the defensive ditty and then a ability that will actually raise that level of it. You need to play the first one once, and then that one that raises the level twice, and then you win the fight. But you need the parts for Khezu to get it to begin with. Alright, so let's jump ahead just a little bit. Alright, so as you keep progressing down through the cave, what's going to pop up is you're actually going to see a feral Tetranadon down near the end of the tunnel. So, just so you're aware, in case he's giving you any issues, you do not have to beat the feral Tetranadon. Ultimately, there is one you're going to have to fight for this quest, but you do not have to actually fight this guy. I just decided at some point, I was like, you know what, he would actually probably not be that much of a challenge. Well, in the long run, he's not, but it absolutely does take a minute to whittle him down. He's a little bit stronger than the average Tetranadon. I will say this much. I'll let the fight play out so you can see him as if he's a normal boss. The one note kind of worth making, though, is beating him is actually worthwhile because this is a really convenient camp. Not to mention it lets you go ahead and start altering the habitat restoration for this particular area. So, do you have to beat him? No. If he's giving you a lot of trouble, just go ahead and skip past him. But if you can beat him, you absolutely should. And you'll see it just takes time. You just have to be careful not to hit the part that's glowing. Whenever he's in this mode, wait until he goes in the mode where all the little sparkly blue bits go back before you try to break that off of him. And if you do successfully break it, it depowers him enough that even though it still takes forever to whittle his health down, he's nowhere near the threat. Like, that hits really hard until you break that stone. Once you break that stone, he doesn't really hit that hard anymore. And that's sort of the key with all these feral creatures, is if you're strong enough to actually get the part broken that has the stones on it, it significantly depowers them and makes them a whole lot more manageable. They don't really tend to have the ability to actually one-shot multiple characters after that. And you can just kind of take your time fighting them like a normal creature. Because he is just, at the end of the day, a slightly souped-up normal Tetranadon, and Tetranadon is not that dangerous to begin with. And you do need to be able to beat a normal one, because you'll see here in just a little bit. But I'll let this fight continue to play out, and you can kind of see how I just fumble my way through it and still manage to successfully actually beat him.
Thank you.
Let's calm down.
push yourself.
You're right. Don't overdo it.
They're open.
Watch out! Now!
Murray! This'll do it. Take that! All right. Now's our chance.
No! No!
You're right.
Now's your chance!
Going all in! We've got this!
Watch out!
Ready!
Calm down!
Nice! All right! There!
Excellent! Now!
Maximum firepower!
Hey!
Right. Good one.
You too, Captain.
Alright, with the fight finished, we now have a new camp set up, and so a little bit of a side story within the side story. Yet again, not absolutely necessary. You can actually dodge him and still make it to where you need to go to in this cave system to actually finish this part out. And that is down this other little branch here. As a matter of fact, if you run into him and he kills you and it sends you back to that waypoint, you can actually come back in by going underneath the waterfall in the main area and just kind of branching back down this corridor and then coming down here. And just a heads up, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up fighting a completely normal Tetranadon. So if you were having trouble with Tetranadon in general, you may want to soup it up a little bit. This is the quest that I would say out of all the ones that you have to do as far as the side stories for this chapter goes, that has the potential to give you the most problems. Do I think it will realistically give you that many problems? No. It's not that bad if you're only fighting the things you have to fight. Could it? If you've been avoiding a whole bunch of the encounters, then absolutely. And I guess now that I think about it, if you're trying to do a low-level run, I would probably recommend trying to figure out a way to brute force your way through the side stories so that you at least get the upgrades for the side characters. Because while you're keeping your level minimum, that would help make them extra potent. It might be a little challenging to do that and keep your level at a minimum, though. But yeah, no, just normal Tetranadon. That's all it is. You got a Tetranadon harassing some dude in a cave that managed to miraculously survive like 100-foot fall off the side of a cliff. I don't know, whatever. Video games don't have to have real-world logic, right? But this guy, if you fought the feral one and won, this guy is nothing. It's that fight, but starting out after you've broken the stones and then some. So he's even easier than the last one was. Just use the appropriate weapon on the appropriate part. You really, Tetranadon's simple enough. You don't even necessarily have to worry about being properly matched up with the right types. Like, you're just going to do enough damage to probably win in the long run. But Tobi Kadachi helps because he's electric. So if you happen to have Astalos with you, there you go. Which, now I'm thinking about it, I may take the time to go back and actually farm up Astalos enough to get Bolt Reaver and pop him into the party. Yeah, I think it's about time that I go through and start making some shuffling on the Monsty party, but we'll see between this and the next video. If y'all are interested in actually seeing what things I farm up and how I do that, just let me know and I'll make a video on it too. But otherwise, I'm going to continue making the chapter videos. Alright, so I'll catch back up with you whenever we finish this fight.
They're open.
Now's your chance.
Good one.
Murray! Now's your chance.
Well done.
This'll do it. How about this?
Watch out!
Ready.
Calm down.
Take that. Too slow. Yes. Keep pushing.
Don't be mad at me.
Watch out! You did it!
Keep it up. Go.
That should finish it.
All right.
Right. Good one.
You too, Captain.
Alright, so again, I kind of miss clipping out the things you get for beating that side story, but it's the same stuff as always. You gain an extra weapon for him, and you boost the attack abilities of his Monsty. So now we're going to depart on the quest to follow the statues. This one is one where I'm not going to cut out the travel time in between in case you don't know what sort of path to take. I'm not 100% certain that you actually, like if there's some sort of internal markers making sure that you actually follow the statue, because there was one on the left in case you missed it. So it wants us just to keep going straight forward. And there's the next. One thing that I find a little weird with this particular quest is they're not always going to be perfectly straight in line with each other. It's just going to sort of point you in a direction, you go there, and they'll be more or less in the spot where they're saying, like, kind of down and out of the line of sight. Then now, they're not trying to hide them from you or make it a tricky thing of any sort. It's just kind of hard to follow along where they're pointing at sometimes. So you may have to, like, do what I'm doing here and try to loop down and then come back up and around, and then figure out where it's pointing from there. So it's not always the easiest to see where the next one's going to be, but it's also not terribly hard to figure it out if you have even somewhat of a sense of direction. By the way, the arrows that I'm putting on screen are really just kind of meant to help point in general to where they're at. I don't have any idea how to make them actually track an object on screen. I also think I need to spend like another $300 on my software to have the ability to do that. But anyway, these last couple here are actually pretty straight in a line. They're not that hard to find. Really, until you get to the very last one in these order, well, next to last one, it's not that hard to figure out where you're going. You can usually see them pretty clearly beforehand, but yet again, I did put a couple markers in the video just in case. So I'll let you travel from here to there, and I'll jump back into the one that actually gave me some issues.
Let's go!
What's this?
What the?
Hey! No.
I don't know if it's where this one's tilted and seems to have fallen over that it kind of messed with its orientation a little bit. But what it's actually wanting you to do is turn and go up the mountain path here. I'm not going to lie, I didn't figure that out from clues from the statue itself. I cut out me wandering around in circles for a little bit trying to figure out where the other statue is. And at this point, the way I just end out sweeping the camera around, I catch a glimpse of it and I'm like, oh, there's the next statue. So those two don't line up all that well. But that's about the only one where it's really messed up. Now, do you actually absolutely need to go through and touch every single one of these statues? I have no idea. I don't know if there's any sort of internal counter about you checking them. I don't think so. Usually they give you some sort of indicator in games like that, but since this one's sort of a semi-puzzle, I don't know. And this is the point where you need your canine. The canine has the ground dive ability. And in order to navigate the next area to get to the boss for this particular chapter, you're going to have one with you. And honestly, they kind of ride really smoothly, which I guess you would expect out of the main transport mechanism from Monster Hunter Rise. But I just don't like them for combat all that much, or else I would actually breed one up to keep with me, because it does ride really well, and they feel faster. It could just be where they're smaller. But this area, while it's a little easy to kind of get lost in terms of just all the twists and turns you can take, you only really typically have a couple choices of moving forward or backward. And you'll use the canine and verticality to move through these little segments. Now, one thing to keep in mind with stories that I always forget, and I end out losing track of things, is that there is actual verticality. Like up here, it takes me a moment to realize that what I need to do is that little spot over there. I need to hop on Rathalos and hop across the ledge. For whatever reason in my mind, I tend to keep forgetting that you can actually have vertical points to move to. I don't know if it's just where I'm an older gamer and that used to not be a thing, or where I'm not really used to thinking of it in strict terms in Monster Hunter, because it's not really been until recently that they've actually effectively used verticality in fights and whatnot. So, I don't know. Either way, that tends to throw me for a loop a little bit and end out running in circles. So I'll leave this running and I'll meet you back up at the boss for this section. So just in case you're lost, you'll be able to find your way.
What's this?
Alright, so it's been a bit since we had a proper boss fight, and Feral Aknosom is a boss. It's not a hard boss, because most of the feral monsters aren't that bad, But he's still a boss, and unless he's behaving strangely, do not hit the part that is highlighted as having the crystals, or else you'll get a backlash attack. So, the way Feral Aknosom works, in its normal state, it's going to do technical attacks primarily, and in its enraged state, it'll do power attacks. Well, that means you need to do power attacks when it's in its normal state, and you need to do speed attacks when it's in its enraged state. By the way, as a side note, if you still have trouble remembering exactly which one counters which one, don't worry about it. I do too. All you need to do, you have the reference right there every single time you look. That was one nice thing that they did here, was building the wheel in a way where it tells you exactly what is weak to what. So, there you go. Now, that will generally work. He's also vulnerable to thunder, so if you have a good thunder monstie, that's a good thing to bring out. I keep leaving Dread Queen Raytheon out. Not the brightest idea, because he's a fire creature, so her fireballs are probably not that great, but the poison is useful. So, not a super challenging fight. Most of the story ones are not meant to be hardcore difficult, unless this ends out like Monster Hunter Stories 2, where at a certain point, there's just a massive hike in difficulty. I bet there is towards the end of the game, but we'll see. Anyway, relatively simple fight. I'll just let this play out. If you just are persistent, take your time, break each part that you can, and when you can break the crystals to make your life significantly easier. Alright, I'll meet back up with you in a minute.
Counting on you.
Thank you.
Take that!
Yes.
Ready!
Ready?
Calm down.
Are you okay?
Now's your chance. Watch out!
There! I got it! The power of friendship!
Calm down.
Too slow!
Now!
This'll do it!
Don't be mad at me.
Leave it to me!
Didn't work?
Watch out!
Let's do this.
Murray!
Now's your chance.
Keep it up!
Ready?
I won't lose.
You did it!
Right.
Good one.
You too, Captain.
That was rough, huh?
You know, the only thing that sucks there is that feral fight didn't end out giving us a camp, but whatever. You don't always get one, especially if it's related to storyline things. And that will let us boost the story. And at this point, if you're wanting to do any grinding, I would recommend doing it, because you're getting ready to come up on what is the act boss. And when you beat the boss for an act, you move into the next one pretty much instantly. And this transition leaves you in a state where you can't really grind like normal. So normally I wouldn't really mention anything like that in order to try to avoid spoilers, but this is one of those times where you need to know if there's stuff you want to get done in the Timberland here, you need to go ahead and be working on it, because at the next story transition you're going to be kind of stuck in a position where you really not want to be grinding anything for a while. So take care of any side quests or any monster building or habitat restoration stuff that you want to get done in this act now before moving on with the story. But when you're ready to move on with the story, boy, does it have a fun thing that you jump into. So oh, as a small side note, I'm just going to jump the footage up to the next point, because you literally just follow the path between here and the marker. There's nothing really tricky that goes on there. This is not a point where the game's trying to trick you into anything. So let's jump ahead. Alright, as just one more friendly reminder, if you're really still wanting to do some stuff, this is the point of no return. If you go through the boss fight that's coming up and win, you are going to be stuck for just a little bit. So be warned. Now, I'm not going to spoil what's about to happen. It's really cool. I highly recommend just doing this on your own first time. This big behemoth of a creature is Yama Tsukami. Now, you do eventually get the ability to actually fight him as an Elder Dragon encounter, but for the moment, he's going to end up being just akin to an invasive species fight. So what the strategy is here, you need to focus hardcore on breaking the tentacles and then breaking his mouth, because you break the tentacles, the mouth becomes available. Then you have so many turns to break the mouth before he unleashes a pretty devastating AoE attack. This is actually a bit of a challenging fight, not necessarily because doing what it wants you to do is hard, but because he's not going to hit very softly. So when he is targeting you, you need to try to counter it. When he's in his normal state, you need to counter with speed, and when he is in the open mouth state, you need to counter with technical. Ice and dragon are the two main elements that he's weak to, and you can inflict bleed and darkness, which would help avoid getting hit from him. But for the most part, you just want to try to actually counter the attacks. Whenever he's targeting someone in a way that can be countered, do the appropriate counter. Whenever he's targeting you in a way that can't, you just keep working on trying to whittle those tentacles down. It is not necessarily a difficult fight in the sense that it feels insurmountable, but it's difficult in the sense that you actually need to think about what you're doing and try to appropriately actually use the right hits. And that's probably one of the first times in the game where even if you're doing some extra stuff and you're actually doing some fights, you're traveling around, that you're going to encounter a boss that really can push you, even if you're actually making the efforts to do the right things. So this is probably a sign of things to come in terms of at least the end act bosses. But it's a cool fight, and I'll let this play out and you can see how exactly I do it. You're not going to take his health out, by the way. You have to do 2 full cycles of breaking tentacles and breaking the mouth. Once you get the second cycle done, you auto win and you move on into the next act. So, I guess, since this is the final fight of this act, that'll be it for my commentary in the video, and I'll see you in the next act or in whatever other video I put out between now and then. So remember, if I can beat it, so can you.
The pressure's on. Done.
Don't push yourself.
Don't overdo it.
Thanks. Nice.
Ready. All right.
Thank you.
No!
Leave it to me. Didn't work. Yeah.
What? No.
All right. Take this.
Yes. Ready?
Murray. Now.
You all right?
I'll take you down!
Let's get to work.
Come on, everyone!
Amazing! Well done.
Watch out! What?
Ready!
Come on, everyone.
Don't overdo it.
Thanks.
No!
Leave it to me! See that?
You alright?
Thank you.
Murray!
Are you okay?
Leave it to me. Didn't work?
That's it.
All right.
Don't overdo it.
Come on, everyone!
Nice one.
I'm ready!
All right.
Now we're cooking.